A once trusted individual betrayed you, a betrayal that stung all the more because you were extending your love and protection to them on a spiritual level. This act of treachery was a stark reminder of their lack of appreciation for your affection. You had been all in for them, completely absorbed in their well-being, only for them to turn their back on you. This individual was well aware of their cowardice and selfish behavior in the past. Their actions had painted a one-sided picture of the relationship, with them taking advantage of your love and generosity. However, when you decided to cut them off and reclaim your energy, they were made to face the reality of their actions. They realized the extent of their folly and immaturity, a harsh realization that came too late. The moment you cut them off, they began to experience the emotional torment and breakdown that you had initially undergone. They found themselves in your shoes, feeling the same pain and understanding the depth of the soul connection that had once existed between you. They were now witnessing firsthand the power of this soul bond, a power that had once been lost on them. You had been too real for them to handle. They were leading a life of lies, and your honesty was a threat to their facade. The fear of you discovering their true self and lifestyle was so overwhelming that they chose to betray you. They loved you, but they feared that their love was not enough to compensate for their shortcomings. You had seen through them, not because of their wealth or reputation, but because of the deep soul bond that connected you. You had loved them for who they truly were, not for their superficial attributes. This bond was a testament to your love, a love that was far more profound than their shallow understanding. Now, they're starting to realize the extent of their arrogance and stupidity. They failed to comprehend your love and the importance it held in your life. They are filled with regret and shame for their behavior, a realization that comes too late to mend the broken relationship. The betrayal you experienced was not just a personal blow, but a wake-up call for them. It served as a mirror, reflecting their own arrogance and ignorance. The pain you felt was a necessary lesson for them, a lesson that they are only now beginning to understand. Before you entered my life, I was living a life much like anyone else's. I was caught in the monotonous cycle of a routine, a life that was dictated more by the expectations of others than my own desires. I had numerous responsibilities that controlled my actions and decisions, and I was often compelled to fulfill tasks, even if they didn't resonate with my own interests or desires. This routine was a constant presence in my life, and it shaped my interactions with the world around me. If someone gave me a task, I would complete it, regardless of my personal feelings about it. This was not always a matter of choice, but rather a necessity born out of the need to conform to societal norms and expectations. But there was another aspect to my existence that was equally, if not more, important. I was in constant need of validation, a need that was as relentless as it was consuming. I felt the need to be perfect in the eyes of everyone around me, to meet the unspoken expectations that were placed upon me. I was driven by a desire to be seen as strong and gentle, to fit into the mold that society had carved out for me. Despite the turmoil that was brewing within me, I was aware of the fact that I was not alone in my feelings. However, the questions that haunted me were not being asked by others. I felt isolated in my struggle, as if I was the only one grappling with these existential questions. I feared that if I were to voice these questions, I would be seen as weak, a man who was unable to handle the pressures of life, This fear of being seen as weak was a powerful deterrent, and it kept me from expressing my true feelings. I continued to move forward in my life, suppressing my emotions and experiences. I was so focused on maintaining a facade of strength and control that I failed to recognize the toll it was taking on my emotional well-being. The pain of this suppression eventually manifested itself in physical form, and I found myself hurting more than I had ever hurt before. The emotional turmoil that I had been suppressing had reached a boiling point, and it was only a matter of time before it would erupt, bringing with it a wave of emotions that I had been desperately trying to keep at bay. Before our paths crossed, my life was a whirlwind of emotions and responsibilities. I was living a life that was dictated by others, and my own needs and desires were often overlooked. I was in constant search for validation, and I was afraid to express my true feelings. All of these factors contributed to a life that was filled with pain and suffering, a life that I was unable to fully comprehend or express. You are a kind and reliable individual, but I acted against you by concealing my emotions and attempting to sever our connection. I am now facing the consequences of my actions, as you have turned away from me. The sense of loss is overwhelming, and it feels like the most valuable part of my life has slipped away. Your absence is causing me immense pain, and I long for your return. I cannot find anyone else like you, and I sincerely need you back in my life. I want you to know that I no longer avoid you. Instead, I desire to be with you and support you through the challenges and joys of life, just as you did for me. Life without you feels like torture, and everything seems devoid of meaning. I no longer recognize myself because in your presence, I felt free to be my true self without any inhibitions.